Hello, family. Today we're going to talk about Trump's childhood, narcissism, and emotional arrested development. That's today's 10-minute workshop. The reason we're getting into this is because so many times you try to understand the behavior of a tyrant or a narcissist, but first we got to unpack it and start from inception, from when he was a child. First, let's define what the psychology of narcissism is, okay? Narcissistic personality disorder, which many people believe he has been and should be diagnosed with, is an inflated self importance, lack of empathy, deep need for admiration, and fragile self esteem. Now, we see this every time when he does a press conference. First of all, he inflates his self importance. I did this. I was the first president ever in history to do so and so. Come on, dude. Really? I did this. It's never the team, the cabinet, the administration. It's always I. Lack of empathy. I mean, he doesn't care about people. Clearly, if he did, you wouldn't be kicking the homeless out or sending them to jail. Especially a lot of these homeless who are veterans, not being able to identify with the common man or woman. That's just because of the narcissistic personality disorder. Also, it explains how narcissists are often made. They're not born. They're made through environments like without unconditional love, something that you will soon see that he did not have from his parents. He was rewarded performance and dominance and punished vulnerability. So narcissists often develop not because they're full of self-love, but because they are full of self-wounds hidden behind a mirror. And that is clearly what happens. So let's talk about this Trump's childhood. The boy who couldn't cry, okay? Let's talk about his father first. All right, Trump's father's name was Fred Trump. He was a German American real estate developer known for being domineering, cold, and emotionally withholding. Now, that sounds on par with some Germans, particularly of his father's day and time, okay? Not far removed from the Holocaust time, right? Okay. His father raised Donald to be a, quote, killer, emotionally tough, hyper competitive, and never admit defeat, even if that meant lying. Also, his father shamed any signs of weakness. And that's really sad. And so Fred reportedly told young Donald, "You are a king." So imagine, you're told as a child, you have to be the best, you can never admit defeat, you can never admit that you're wrong, and you are a king. Now, let's talk about his mother, Mary Trump. Unfortunately, she was extremely ill for very long stretches of time, particularly during his early years. And so he did not receive the emotional and physical availability that a mother in nurturing needs to give their child. Also, Donald reportedly described her as a very cold woman. And so, again, you got a father who's basically a hard ass, strict disciplinarian. All he cares about is being the best, doing whatever's best for the money. And then a mother who is withholding and then also not very present due to illness and also her own frailties. So, how does this impact a child? Well, he was sent to military boarding school at age of 13, not as a reward, but as discipline, because his father felt like Trump had gotten into some trouble, and he felt like you just need to be more disciplined. So you put him, you already come from a family not getting a lot of love emotionally, and then you throw him into this environment of a military boarding school. This environment praised dominance, punishment, and conformity. And also, he lacked nurturing at that school, boundaries, and emotional support. And it's even told and said that he excelled there because he loved it. He was a bully there. He got to usurp his dominance and everything that his father said was strong and an alluring trait to have. So right then and there, when did he ever have time to be vulnerable or care about someone or nurture his own wounds or self-reflect? He didn't. Send them away. That way mommy don't have to raise him and daddy don't have to deal with him. Donald grew up learning that feelings were for losers, apologies were for the weak, and power was the only currency that matters. And we see that now, y'all, in him. So let's talk about the arrested development, the petulant child in a man's body. He's an emotional growth stunted at adolescence, okay? He emotionally stopped growing when he was an adolescent. Still throws tantrums, He seeks constant validation and lashes out when criticized. If someone criticizes him, fire him. You can't even take constructive criticism. He doesn't want no one telling him what he's doing wrong, and that's an awful situation to be in. That's why I always say when I do leadership workshops, I ask the participants, do you want to be a feared leader or a respected leader? And if you say you want to be a feared leader, you don't need to be a leader. Because the problem is people who work under you and with you, if they fear you, they'll never tell you the truth. They'll never be honest with you. And you will not have a give and take relationship. But if people around you respect you, they can say, out of all due respect, Mr. President, this is not right. And I'm not saying that some of those people around him don't say that. But if they really stood on their principles, and you see some of the unconstitutional and inhumane things that he has done, you would get to the point where you're like, you know what, I cannot support this administration. Here is my walking papers. That's how much integrity you have to have. But again, when you're working for a petulant little child in a man's body, it's what happens, right? Like a child, Trump often refuses accountability, lies to escape consequences, belittles others to feel superior, and uses grandiosity to cover insecurity. This is bigly, it's hugely. I hate listening to him talk because just hearing the levels of ignorance and unlearnedness it's appalling. Trump doesn't just lie. He lies because the truth threatens his fragile self-image. Let's also talk about generational trauma and white male entitlement that this man has gotten honestly from his father. His father, Fred Trump, was investigated by the Senate for unethical housing practices and was arrested at a Klan rally, y'all. Did you know that? Trump's father was arrested at a Klan rally. Trump was raised in a home where whiteness and wealth equaled superiority. So why would you think he would give a damn about black and brown people and other marginalized groups? Also, Trump's belief in being chosen or better is generational, psychological. It's not political. Donald Trump was not raised to serve the people. He was groomed to rule them. And you don't mind ruling over people when you don't really think that they are human, when you think that you're better. Lastly, why it matters now. When you give a child in a man's body access to nuclear codes, mass influence, and unfiltered power, democracy becomes endangered. And that's what we're seeing today, guys. He's emotionally unstable. His emotional instability isn't a side note, y'all. It's the blueprint for authoritarianism. Keep trying to explain that to you. We are not just witnessing political corruption. We are witnessing psychological projection in power. So when emotionally broken men are never held accountable, you all, they don't grow up. They just grow dangerous. So this is not just about Trump. It's about what happens when we don't heal, when men don't heal. And the sad thing is, America, some of you all voted in an emotionally unstable child in a man's body. He's 79 years old. He is not going to change unless God, the Creator, Source himself, works a supernatural miracle. So what do we need to do, guys? Well, that will be my next teaching on how to thrive and how do we come together as Americans and fight this foolishness. But in the meantime, I just wanted you all to know the psychology and pathology and just the past of this man who is now our president. And why? Because some of you keep saying, well, why is he like this? You won't understand, baby. Because most of you were raised with loving parents who didn't just toss you away. And he wasn't. So you can never give what you don't have.